Refereeing and the laws of our beautiful game have been brought into sharp focus in the last 2 weeks. Whilst the Springboks dominated the Wallabies and were still bundled out of the World Cup, this was desperately disappointing. But the blame can't be laid exclusively at the feet of referee Bryce Lawrence. That said, his officiating at breakdown was atrocious, and he allowed David Pocock to get away with murder and push the envelope, which halted Springbok momentum at key moments. Then you fast forward a week to the World Cup semi-final between Wales and France. You cannot tell me that Alain Roland's decision to send Welsh captain Sam Warburton off the field with a red card not 20 minutes into that fixture was a good one in the context of the game. A dangerous tip tackle, yes. A yellow card, definitely. But to ruin the spectacle, not 20 minutes into the game, with a red card, to sanction it that heavily and so quickly that the commentators couldn't even pick that it was a red card, surely is a shocking decision. In the context of the game, the context of the tournament, and if you look at the prior record of Warburton and this Welsh team who've played such beautiful rugby, surely he deserved the benefit of the doubt, and a yellow card would have done. Now, later that afternoon, Province played the Pumas, and Jason Jafta was faced with the exact same decision, a tip tackle, and he came up with a yellow card. What that says to me is that the crime and the punishment of the crime is obviously open to interpretation by the referee. The spirit of the game and the letter of the law are often at loggerheads. And if referees went onto the field thinking, how can I play an invisible role? How can I encourage the team that wants to play the right type of rugby to thrive? We'd be in a far better position than we find ourselves today. You look at Craig Hubert's performance the next day, New Zealand versus Australia in the World Cup semi-final. It was absolutely brilliant. The way he policed the first few rucks, and he pinged David Pocock. He said, your knees on the ground and you're playing the ball. Suddenly David Pocock had a decision to make. Was he going to push the envelope again and perhaps spend 10 minutes in the bin, costing his team the game? Or was he going to toe the line and stop slowing the ball down? And he went for the latter. He also officiated brilliantly at scrum time, and he allowed the dominant team to gain the ascendancy, allowed the team playing more rugby to get on the front foot, and he gave them the benefit of the doubt. Later in the game, twice the Wallabies put the ball into the scrum and were penalised while going backwards. They conceded 6 points at the boot of Piri Wipu. In fact, if the All Blacks hadn't missed 17 points through 5 penalties and a conversion, the final score would have been 37-6 against the Wallabies, perhaps a more fitting score for that game. And Craig Hubert has been given the honour of becoming the second South African to ever officiate the Rugby World Cup final. It's the third Rugby World Cup final match officiated by South Africans. Andre Watson did it twice, and now Craig Hubert. And what that means is the Springboks have finally been eclipsed as the greatest World Cup team in any sport. Let me explain to you what I mean, because statistics never lie. So if you think about soccer, the Brazilians have won the Soccer World Cup 5 out of 19 times. That gives them a 26% record. The Australian cricket team have won the Cricket World Cup 4 out of 10 times. That's a 40% record. And until this last week, South Africa had won 2 out of 4 Rugby World Cups that we were invited to play in. That meant we had a 50% World Cup record. Now it's 2 out of 5, a 40% World Cup record, and tied with the Australians at cricket. But that's been eclipsed because 3 out of 7 Rugby World Cup finals have been officiated by South African referees. That team have taken top honours 3 out of 7 times. And that's a 42% record, making them the greatest team in World Cup sporting history. So looking ahead to this week's Rugby World Cup final, France won't get within 20 points of the All Blacks. Man on man, there isn't a single French player that can hold a candle to his Kiwi counterpart. And if you look back to the 1987 World Cup final, the very first one, 29-9 was the final score between these teams. I believe New Zealand's going to go beyond that in beating the French this time round. Israel Dag or Jerome Kaino to be man of the match and or player of the tournament, but I'll give an honorary mention to Mike Phillips. He was unlikable on the Lions tour here a few years ago, but has been an absolute joy to watch play the game this time around. That's all from me. I'm Stephen Morris. This is Rugby Vibe, brought to you by Prongster. We'll see you next week.